After the passing of King Pandu, Queen Kunti dedicated her entire life to raising the 5 Pandavas with love, discipline, and devotion. Under the protection of Bhishma Pitamaha, the young princes settled into their new home in Hastinapura. Every morning, they studied the Vedas, learned royal traditions, and played in the vast palace gardens. The people of Hastinapura admired the Pandavas for their humility and noble character. Yudhishthira was calm and truthful, Bhima was fearless and powerful, Arjuna displayed remarkable intelligence, while Nakula and Satyava impressed everyone with their grace and wisdom. Their good qualities won the hearts of the kingdom, but unknowingly, they also planted the first seeds of jealousy in another young prince's heart. Every afternoon, the princes gathered in the royal playground to compete in friendly games. They raced through the gardens, practiced wrestling, climbed giant trees, and challenged each other with wooden weapons. Among them, Bhima stood apart. Blessed by Lord Vayu, his strength was extraordinary even as a child. He could lift heavy stones with ease, outrun the other princes, and defeat several boys at once during wrestling. Yet Bhima never intended to insult anyone. He laughed, helped his cousin stand up, and treated every contest as a game. But each defeat felt like a deep wound to Duryodhana's pride. Instead of seeing Bhima as a loving cousin, he slowly began to see him as the greatest obstacle to his own future. One day, while playing near the River Ganga, the young princes climbed tall trees to gather sweet fruits. Bhima playfully shook the enormous branches with his incredible strength. One after another, the Kaurava brothers lost their balance and tumbled harmlessly onto the soft grass below. Bhima laughed loudly and helped each of them back to their feet, believing it was only innocent fun. The other Pandavas laughed along with him. However, Duryodhana's face turned red with humiliation. In front of his brothers, servants, and guards, he had once again been embarrassed by Bhima. That laughter echoed in his mind long after the game had ended. That evening, Duryodhana stood alone on the palace balcony, watching the people cheer for the Pandavas. Every compliment they received felt like a personal insult. He feared that one day the citizens of Hastinapura would choose Yudhishthira as their future king, leaving him forgotten. His heart, once filled with the innocence of childhood, slowly became consumed by envy. At that very moment, destiny quietly opened the door to darkness. A single emotion, jealousy, would eventually grow into hatred, and hatred would one day lead to the greatest war in history. Watching all of this from a distance was Vidura, the wisest minister of Hastinapura. His sharp eyes noticed the growing tension between the cousins. He gently advised Bhishma that the princes should be guided carefully before jealousy turned into conflict. Bhishma agreed and prayed that love and wisdom would unite the children. But destiny had already begun writing a different story. While the elders hoped for peace, unseen forces were preparing the Kuru dynasty for trials that would test every relationship and every promise. Late that night, Duryodhana quietly walked through the silent corridors of the palace to meet his maternal uncle, Shakuni. The palace was illuminated only by flickering oil lamps, and the atmosphere was heavy with mystery. Shakuni listened patiently as Duryodhana spoke about his fear, his humiliation, and his growing hatred toward Bhima. Instead of calming the young prince, Shakuni smiled knowingly. He told Duryodhana that kingdoms are not won by strength alone, but by intelligence, patience, and strategy. Those words planted the first dangerous seed in Duryodhana's mind. From that night onward, Shakuni became the guiding force behind every dark decision that would shape the fate of the Kuru dynasty. The following morning, Shakuni invited Duryodhana into his private chamber. With a calm voice, he began teaching the young prince the difference between strength and strategy. Bhima may be stronger than you today, Shakuni said, but every warrior has a weakness. A clever mind can defeat even the strongest opponent. Duryodhana listened carefully. His anger slowly turned into determination. Instead of challenging Bhima openly, he decided to wait for the perfect opportunity. Shakuni explained that if the Pandavas continued to grow stronger, they would naturally become the favorites of the kingdom, and one day Yudhishthira would inherit the throne. Those words filled Duryodhana's heart with fear. He believed that if he did nothing, he would lose everything that he considered his birthright. From that moment, jealousy transformed into a dangerous ambition. Shakuni's influence over Duryodhana became stronger with every passing day, and the first true conspiracy against the Pandavas quietly began inside the royal palace. A few days later, Duryodhana announced a grand picnic near the sacred river Ganga. He invited all the Pandavas and Kauravas to spend the day swimming, wrestling, racing, and enjoying delicious royal food. The invitation seemed completely innocent. Queen Kunti happily allowed her sons to join, believing that the cousins were finally becoming close friends. Bhima and Vidura also welcomed the idea, hoping the children would strengthen their bond through play. The young princes excitedly prepared for the journey, laughing together as they left the palace. None of them realized that beneath Duryodhana's cheerful smile lay a carefully planned betrayal that would soon place Bhima's life in terrible danger. The banks of the river Ganga echoed with laughter throughout the day. The young princes raced through green fields, climbed giant trees, practiced wrestling, and splashed joyfully in the cool waters of the sacred river. Bhima's incredible strength amazed everyone once again. He carried several brothers on his shoulders, swam across the river with ease, and laughed without a care in the world. Yudhishthira smiled as he watched his younger brothers enjoy themselves, while Arjuna practiced aiming at distant leaves with a small wooden bow. Everything appeared peaceful. Yet from a distance, Duryodhana watched every movement with silent determination. He knew the moment he had been waiting for was finally approaching. As the sun began to set, the royal servants arranged a magnificent feast beneath the shade of enormous trees. Golden plates were filled with delicious sweets, fruits, milk, and traditional royal dishes. Duryodhana quietly walked toward one special bowl prepared only for Bhima. Following Shakuni's instructions, he secretly mixed a powerful poison into Bhima's favorite sweet. His hands trembled for a moment, but his hatred was stronger than his conscience. Smiling warmly, he personally served the food to Bhima. Trusting his cousin completely, Bhima thanked him and happily enjoyed every bite. Around them, the other princes continued laughing and eating, completely unaware that the greatest conspiracy of their childhood had already begun. Soon after the feast, Bhima began feeling strangely tired. His powerful body suddenly felt heavy, and his vision slowly became blurred. Believing that he had exhausted himself after an entire day of games and swimming, he lay down beneath a large banyan tree to rest. Within moments, he fell into a deep unconscious sleep. The other princes assumed Bhima was simply resting and continued enjoying the evening. As darkness spread across the riverbank and everyone gradually fell asleep, Duryodhana quietly looked toward the motionless Bhima. He realized that the poison had worked exactly as Shakuni had planned. A cruel smile appeared on his face as he prepared for the final step of his conspiracy. When the entire camp had fallen silent, Duryodhana quietly approached Bhima with a few trusted companions. They tightly bound the unconscious prince with strong forest vines to prevent him from escaping. Under the pale moonlight, they carried him toward the deep waters of the sacred river Ganga. Without hesitation, Duryodhana pushed Bhima into the flowing river, believing that the mighty son of Vayu would never return. The current quickly swept Bhima away into the darkness. Standing on the riverbank, Duryodhana believed he had finally removed his greatest rival. But destiny had written a completely different future. Instead of meeting death, Bhima was about to begin an extraordinary journey into the mysterious kingdom of the Nagas, where his strength would increase beyond human imagination.